Namaste, welcome. Let's chant Om three times and begin. 3 बार ओम का उच्चारण करते हैं. A deep breath in and gently exhale. Let's breathe in for Om. Slowly and gradually, whenever we feel like it, we may open our eyes if they are closed. So, the knowledge sheet for today is weekly knowledge sheet number 54. Somewhere in beautiful British Columbia, when we are joyful. This was on 19 June 1996. When we are joyful, we don't look for perfection. If you're looking for perfection, then you're not at the source of joy. Joy is the realization that there is no vacation from wisdom. The world appears imperfect on the surface, but underneath, all is perfect. Perfection hides, imperfection shows. The wise will not stay on the surface, but will probe into the depth. Things are not blurred, your vision is blurred. Infinite actions prevail in the wholeness of consciousness, and yet the consciousness remains perfect, untouched. As satsangis, realize this now and be at home. Koan or riddle of the week. You better straighten out and become we. We are always one and you could be two. Answer next week. News flash from BBC, beautiful British Columbia. In St. Louis, a man diagnosed with malignancy in his shoulder came to receive Guruji's blessings. The next day he came to satsang, and to the astonishment of the doctors, the man had been healed, even though the MRI had shown a tear and a growth on the shoulder cuff. As the man told his story and presented a dozen red roses to Gurudev, tears of gratitude rolled down everyone's cheeks. There were many healing experiences reported in St. Louis and Chicago. The Chicago organizers said, "Here comes the Art of Living circus to town." Laughter. There was an air of celebration as the devotees from the US Midwest gathered with non stop giggling and laughter. People were driving in circles, forgetting traffic rules, not sleeping, laughing as Guruji amazed everyone. We rushed on to Portland. Dean says we have become Russians instead of Americans, Indians, and Canadians. People who rush. At the old church, there was not even standing space. The sight of Gurudev put smiles on every face. In Vancouver, the native people warmly hosted Gurudev at the University of British Columbia. The sea, the sky, the sea, the snow capped mountains, the tall trees, and the waterfalls all beckoned for the knowledge. Sudarshan left the room for 5 minutes, and returned asking, "What did I miss?" And Marcy said, "Enlightenment," and everyone laughed. Some of these I remember when the knowledge sheets used to come, and when all of these news flashes would come, the news from what was happening around Gurudev, it made us really feel, oh, I'm even though I'm so far away in Bangalore ashram, it still felt as if I was part of all that was happening all around Gurudev. And for me, the knowledge was amazing, Yet the news flashes really help to create that amazing connection. So today I can see there are many more people watching on YouTube too. So if you're watching on YouTube and you have a question, please feel free to do so in the chat box. When we are joyful, we don't look for perfection. This is so true. Anytime we are ecstatic, we're full of joy, it's easy to forgive imperfections, isn't it? Someone is very happy. That's why when when leaders become very happy, then they are able to accept things as they are more easily. If you're looking for perfection, then you're not at the source of joy. Now, you might say, but well, as a leader, I need to look for perfection. I need to make sure that my company is running perfectly. I need to make sure that everything else is happening correctly. Shouldn't I be looking for perfection? Gurudev comes to that later on. But here, the essence is in the quest for perfection, somewhere we think that we attribute imperfection to what is. And Gurudev says, joy is the realization that there is no vacation from wisdom. It's not that for some time uh, I will keep my wisdom, let me drop it for some time. Maybe it's valid when we are on the satsang, when we are talking to each other like this, maybe discussing knowledge, well, then it's valid. But when I go to office, well, it's not valid. If I say that, then there is no joy. But when I can see that all of this wisdom is universal, can be applicable all the time, and there is no vacation from it, then true joy wells up. There are two options. Either the situation overpowers my understanding of the knowledge, or my understanding of the knowledge of the essence of life helps me to tide over the situation. अस्तित्व को ठीक ठीक जान लिया तो हम अस्तित्व के साथ खेल सकते हैं, और यदि ठीक ठीक नहीं जाना तो कहीं ना कहीं उसी में उलझ जाते हैं. तो ठीक ठीक जानकारी आ जाए तब उसके साथ खेला जा सकता है. It's like if you're very good at playing cricket, then if if you're very skillful at playing cricket, then it's a source of joy. But if you're not very skillful, then it could become a big burden. The world appears imperfect on the surface, but underneath all is perfect. And this is something so beautiful. So as a leader, as a business leader, as a as a CEO, or as a leader of a team that you're doing whatever we're doing, when I see just a limited portion of what is, then I can see imperfection. But if I look at it in a bigger sense, then I can see that underneath all is perfect. Let's take a practical example. Maybe you have your subordinate who has not done the job correctly, and they come to you. And when we see that, oh, this person has not done it correctly, now let's look a little deeper, and we say, well, maybe it's the stress in the person that has caused that imperfection. When I blame the person for the imperfection, then I become miserable. But when I see, hey, this person is not a culprit but a victim, then I get the compassion. It comes up, and I say, okay, let's see the imperfection that this person has shown in the job. Well, let's take the root cause out of it. And then you see that when you start seeing that underneath there is perfection, there is something that's perfect, but it got covered. And so when I put my attention on that, then joy wells up within me. It's only when I put my attention on imperfection that I feel miserable. When I seek that perfection within, then I can see that joy wells up within me. And Gurudev says so beautifully, perfection hides, imperfection shows off. So our skill is not in seeing the imperfection, but our skill is in being able to see the perfection, recognize the perfection of the consciousness. And this is a very practical tool. A lot of times the attitude with which we approach life can determine our actions, what we do, the way we come across to people, and how effective we are with dealing with situations. And to change the attitude, this is the key. So Gurudev is not saying here that everything is perfect. No, don't close your eyes, and even if someone does something wrong, don't see it. No, no. So he says on the surface can be imperfection, but if you look deeper, you will find perfection. So here Gurudev is not saying that even if you see imperfection, know that that is perfect. No, no. Know that that's on the surface. The wise will not stay on the surface but will probe into the depth. Things are not blurred, your vision is blurred. And for me, this is such a beautiful insight. When I when I'm caught up in the imperfection of people, of situations, then I get stuck there, and all my reaction is out of that imperfection. But if I look deeper inside, Gurudev gives a very beautiful example in some place. He says, if someone lies to you, if your dear one lies to you, someone very near to you, very dear to you, is lying to you, and you get to know it, what happens? We feel hurt, we feel upset. But so if you look at the surface, that person has lied. उस व्यक्ति ने आपको गलत बोला, झूठ बोला, and you can look at that imperfection and say, why did this person lie to me, da, 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 and we get miserable. Or if you look a little closely, why did that person lie to you? Because saying the truth, that person felt the love that I feel, the connection that I have. By saying the truth, that love will diminish. If I tell my mom I got low marks, my mom will scold me. She will not love me anymore as earlier. And because I don't want to lose the love, I lose the truth. So Gurudev says so beautifully, when there's a fight between truth and love always wins, truth always loses. So in the context of this knowledge sheet, if I just see the untruth which is on the surface, then I become miserable. But if I see that, why is this person saying the untruth? It is because that person loves me so much, then immediately my whole attitude towards that person changes. I see, oh my God, this person loves me so much that does not want to lose the love. He's willing to say the untruth, or she's willing to say the untruth. So often, when we see the imperfection, our vision is blurred. We're not able to see the depth. And then Gurudev says this one line that is so amazing: infinite actions prevail in the wholeness of consciousness. The consciousness is whole, is complete, and there's infinite actions happening in that. When I look at just a subset of the actions, then it feels that things are not okay. But when I look at the totality of what's happening, then I see it just is so overwhelming, so amazing. I say, wow. And yet the consciousness remains perfect, untouched. So all the actions prevail because of the consciousness, and yet the consciousness remains untouched. As satsangis, realize this now and be at home. What a blessing that Gurudev gives us. If I could just realize this, that all of this is happening, and yet there is something in me which is untouched, that allows me to go deeper, go below this, not stay at the surface, but probe into the depth. So, and there's a koan for this week which says, you YOU, you better straighten out and become we, WEV. You better straighten out and become we. We are always one, and you could be too. The answer comes next week. So, obviously, you can look to the next knowledge sheet and get the answer. But it's a very nice koan, it's a very nice riddle to keep thinking about, to contemplate about. Great. I can see there are some questions. Any questions? Okay, I think, yeah, now people should be able to unmute yourself and you can ask questions. Asha ji?
Yeah, Kashi Bhaiya. So, going forward with what you told us, that underneath everything is perfect and it's the imperfection that we see, and you gave the example of somebody lying to you. What happens if that is continued? You see, the person again lies to you, and the person again lies to you. That's just an example. What I mean is, how do you then see perfection there? We've had a chat, we've had a spoken, okay, I've understood that it's some problems, something has happened, victim and all that. But if it repeats, then what do you do?
Yeah. So again, we are not saying that the lying uh, is imperfection, love is always there, don't look at the imperfection. So Gurudev is definitely not saying that you take things for granted. अच्छे रहो पर कच्चे मत रहो. So
Yeah.
you can be good, but you don't have to be naive. So
Hmm.
often Gurudev says this, it's not good people who suffer, it's naive people who suffer. And so, in this sense, when we see the imperfection on the surface and the perfection below, then it saves our peace of mind.
Yeah.
Then, when we are peaceful, the way we interact with people, the way we address any situation completely changes. When I address a situation from a sense of disturbance, then my actions also flow out of that attitude. But when I can really look at the essence, then my whole action flows completely differently. And that's what is the beauty of this knowledge. So again, often people think that I should look only at the perfection and वो imperfection को नजरअंदाज कर देते. We say, hey, there
Hmm.
is no imperfection. So Gurudev is
Hmm.
not saying here there is no imperfection. He's saying the imperfection is at the surface and the perfection is deeper inside.
Yeah.
Recognizing this is what is the essence of this knowledge sheet, I feel.
Okay.
And
Yes.
somewhere when we get the skill of doing that, it's like Lord Shiva took the halahal and kept it in the throat, didn't allow it to go within. So, in the same way, if as we dive deeper into the consciousness, as our meditations go deeper, it allows us to have this wonderful sense of mm, looking at the reality and looking at a deeper aspect of reality.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we think if one exists, the other should not exist. If it is perfect, then it's not imperfect. If it's imperfect, then it's not perfect. But the reality is that at some layers there is imperfection, at some deeper layers there's perfection. Recognizing them simultaneously, that is the key for us to move forward. Otherwise, when we start living in this make believe world that, oh, it's all perfect, everything is perfect, and then it causes so much pain later, because all the things
Yeah.
that we tend to. I remember this. There was this one time when Gurudev said this very beautifully. He said, "द्वैत का ज्ञान अद्वैत में लगाओगे या अद्वैत का ज्ञान द्वैत में लगाओगे तो मुश्किल हो जाएगी." So, somewhere, this whole idea that when I am hungry, I need to eat my chocolate cake. If I say you eat the chocolate cake and I will be satisfied, it doesn't work. But when it comes to meditation, it's all one consciousness. There is that unity. So, where to see this? how to address the imperfection on the surface by recognizing the perfection below. That allows us to be much more empathetic,
Yeah.
to really become more effective in our response to the situation.
That's right. And it saves our mind also, isn't it? To start off with. So then you can, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Kashipaya.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
There's someone on YouTube, someone who's asking how to be perfect and joyful both. It's only when we see the perfection below that joy can really well up. So Gurudev says right at the start, when we are joyful, we don't look for perfection, and if you're looking for perfection, then you're not at the source of joy. And joy is the realization that there is no vacation from wisdom. So if you want to be perfect and joyful, Gurudev doesn't say here that when you're perfect, you will not be joyful. He says if you're looking for perfection, then you're not at the source of joy. If you're looking for perfection, then you don't have the perfection. When you are perfection, then you're also joyful. So,
Uh, Kashmir, can I ask you something?
yeah, go ahead.
Rupali Kali here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm Rupali here. Um, my video is not on today. Um, you just said that we should empathize with the imperfections, right? Yeah,
I
right?
actually, I
So,
actually said when you put your attention on the joy that is in the sunset, then empathy, your attitude to the issue
uh,
becomes more
arises.
empathetic.
Yes, I understand that. To we start empathizing, but I'm asking this question because I have a friend who's in a bit of a trouble. Her husband has made a habit of cheating on her over the past few years, though she understands that he has a disease about it. I mean, it's a mental thing with him, and she's trying very hard to forgive and even accept. But what she can't accept is he's righteous about it, that this is the way he's going to be, and I have to accept. At such a point, how does one empathize? How does empathy arise at this point? Because she and I speak every day, and I don't know what to say to her when we are speaking.
So I would actually say that acceptance doesn't mean being passive
Hmm.
about it or taking it
Yeah.
lying down. So you can definitely do something about it, take action. But when we look at the imperfection, now for example, in this case, there is infidelity, and
Yes.
you keep looking at that infidelity, your whole mind goes for a toss, you get upset, angry, all of those things. And
Yes.
then we
Exactly.
tend to act from that. But when I see that, hey, by looking at the imperfection, my attitude is going for a toss, I get upset, angry. एक तो टैक्स दे रहे हैं कि इनफिडेलिटी है,
Yes.
ऊपर से डबल टैक्स दे रहे हैं, अपना दिमाग को भी खराब कर रहे हैं. तो भाई
Yeah.
डबल टैक्स कौन देना चाहता है? बिकम अ गुड चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट एंड मेक श्योर यू सेव योर टैक्स. एंड
I just told her drop him like a hot potato. Is that okay?
no, no, I will not give such an advice. But if it's something that's medical, if it can be cured, why not? And um, I would say that such advice cannot be given in a very generic fashion.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
something that's
understand.
very case by case. And at the same time, the essence here is that when I can change the attitude with which my actions arise, then
Hmm.
the impact of those actions also changes. And the way to do that is I'm seeing the perfection below not because it's helping the other person, but because it saves
But
my
it's
peace of
helping
mind. It
me.
helps me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'll tell her that. Thank you
Great.
so much.
Jai Gurudev. How to make our
Jai
sankalpa or
Gurudev.
commitment strong? Well, I think maybe it's in a different context, this question. But Kabir, I guess when you're really joyful, then your sankalpas become stronger. When we are more connected with the consciousness, then our intentions become stronger. And that's why a silence course or meditation Sometimes we do our regular meditations, but taking that time out and meditating makes a huge difference. So I for sure look at it like this, that when you start seeing that there is imperfection everywhere in life, maybe whatever I do, however much effort I put, I'm not getting any results, or I'm not able to see the perfection deeper within. All the knowledge makes sense to me intellectually, but in real life I'm not able to put it into practice. That's just the universe giving you a sign. Retrieve back, go deep within, do a silence course, and really rejuvenate. And for me, this 3 days of disengagement allows us to get reach that source of joy. And so here, what Gurudev talks about, that things are not blurred, your vision is blurred, and to make sure that the blurred vision becomes unblurred is what Sudarshan, the proper vision, is all about. And that's why Sudarshan Kriya, when we do it regularly, when we do the hollow and empty meditations, it really helps us to see things as not blurred, but to go deeper, to probe deeper in than the surface and probe into the depth. And this allows us to see that the consciousness remains perfect or untouched, especially in the meditations, the hollow and empty meditations. We see that the breath is going, we observe, we see our own emotions going up and down, we see how these emotions are connected with our energy, with our prana, going through the various chakras. It's amazing. And this allows us to see that in the wholeness of consciousness, all these actions, all this thing is all happening in the consciousness. This becomes an experience on the silence course. And if you've done the silence course before, and maybe this insight will help you to do the meditations in a much more deeper way. So whenever you do your next silence course, just just recognize this is what happens when in that whole silence we get in touch with something that is completely untouched, that is so stable, and that brings us back to that stability. Don't you think so? Great. So, knowledge sheet mm, for the next week. Anyone wants to suggest something? One.
65.
Okay, 65. We had someone who was fast on the buzzer. So next week is 65. Let's see what 65, 60, 63, 64, 65. Whether you win or lose. Knowledge sheet number 65, 5th September 1996. Whether you win or lose. It's a very beautiful knowledge sheet. And it was given on Krishna's birthday, Janmashtami. So this was from Bangalore in 1996. We'll do that next week. So Tuesday nights, these Netflix replacement sessions, I guess, are going nicely. We're getting much better response every time. And I can see that with the smiles on everyone's faces, it is doing something.